let's get to our featured presentation of the day. We have Deepa, Joleen, and Phil here from RBC Wealth Management, the self-proclaimed design pod. This is going to be a really good example of what our communities are all about. A team coming, sharing some lived experiences of things they've been doing, breaking down some of these silos and walls between us as a L&D industry and L&D professionals. So thank you, all of you, for coming and joining us today, and we're really excited to see what you have to share with us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joleen.
Thanks, Mark. I really appreciate the kind introduction that you have. And we're so excited to be here today presenting on this topic and talking about our evolution. And just as a bit of background, we did actually initially start this conversation with Jay a while back. And we are really grateful that Frederickson is dedicated to moving this program forward and keeping it really important and on the forefront for the communities that you serve. It's very important. So, with that, I'm going to jump in and ask some people. This might be a bit of a memory test. An underlying theme of our presentation is evolution. So, some of you may remember at a time affectionately when each one of us on a training team might have one role, right? It was like an assembly line. So if you would think about these separate roles, each person might be a designer or a developer, an animator, graphic designer, learning administrator, project manager, any one of those roles that would fall within the training team. Usually one person did it and they stayed within their guardrails, right? And there was no transferring over. Like as an example, if you were an instructor, that's all you did. You provided instructor-led training. You didn't develop, you were in front of a classroom. Can I get a smiley face from anybody in the crowd that might happen to remember these times back in time? So I'm putting a smiley face in there because I remember this time from a while back. And as we moved from where we were in the assembly line approach, right? We have all had to evolve into what's more of a holistic approach, whereas instructional designers or members of learning and development teams, we now are the designer, the developer, the LMS administrator, the web developer, the graphic designer, the project manager, the animator. Whatever that is, you are expected to fill that role in the learning and development genre area of our groups. Now, give me a thumbs up if you happen to be one of those Swiss Army knives of learning and development on your team, where you can do absolutely any one of these roles and you have the skill set and the nimbleness to adjust as needed to meet the needs of the project that's in front of you. And that need can change very dramatically and quickly. And let's not even talk about AI, right? AI, we have heard for quite a little while now, is coming for our jobs, and we are soon to all be out of work. And, is that true? Or are we just going to get another hat, like maybe AI Wrangler? Right? It could be a cowboy hat. You add some feathers in there, make it a little bit fun. But what does that look like? Well, we as a team have evolved as well. And thank you for letting me know a little bit about you as our audience. I want to now introduce us as a team. I'm Joleen Ream, and we have Phil and Deepa on the line as well. Give a wave. And we really think of ourselves as the three musketeers for learning and development. And I'm so thrilled to be part of this team and out representing RBC. So, technically, for those of you who are interested, all of us are senior training and development consultants with RBC Wealth Management U.S. We're responsible for providing product strategic and regulatory training for the 6,000 person group that RBC has in their wealth management group in the United States. And we, as people who've been in the field for a while, have evolved to become the Swiss Army knife of learning and development. So if you think about those three types of functions that we perform, think product, regulatory, strategic training, regardless of what it is that we're doing, each one of us really came to the table and we were passionate about these three objectives, right? Whether we have to make sure that we're advocating for our learners, that our learners have the best possible outcome and resources available to them. We wanted to demystify what can be very confusing in a financial environment. There's a reason why there are licenses and so much regulation. It can be very, very confusing, and we want to help break that down and make it approachable and something that's digestible for our learners, and not just make it meaningful. We want that solution that we provide to be creative and unique. So again, just regardless of topic, these are our objectives. And this is how we evolved our tiny team from pretty much doing only e-learnings to a holistic design approach. So the engagement, oh, go back one slide.
Sorry, did I go back? Okay. Sorry, too
It's
fast.
okay. It's
Sorry,
all good. Yeah, it's all good. So what we've been able to do is, while we were thinking about who our learners are, we really think of them as our, if you want to think of them in sales terms, they're our clients. At the end of the day, we work to serve the purpose of our clients. And the solutions we provide can include not only e-learning, which we were very, very comfortable with. All of us present, we create videos, podcasts, websites, reference materials, just on and on. Any type of, if you can think of training and development and anything that would go into providing support to our clients, each one of us can do that for our team. And we have evolved to show these blended approaches. Again, I'm going to go back to the best word I feel is holistic approach to using any combination of the tools in our toolkit available to us to make for the best possible outcome for our end learners. And let me tell you a little bit about our learners. They are far and wide. So if you think about a financial environment, wealth management, of course, we have financial advisors. Now, just to give you some examples, well, they understand the training is really important because they too, everybody's audited. We have to do what's right for the client and we have to do it according to the guardrails that we've been provided. They absolutely believe that. Their love is out wooing new clients and making money and supporting existing clients. That's where they want to be. So they are very nuts and bolts about their training. And then we have the exact opposite on that, where we have people from other areas who actually just take our training because they think it's really fun and they find it engaging, and they want to see what we're doing in our group. And while it's a compliment, that's a huge wide range of people that we need to meet our objectives for, to provide a balanced holistic approach, because we can't just focus on the people who just want the nuts and bolts, and we can't focus on the people who want the fun. We have to strike a balance in the middle. All right, now Deepa.
Sorry for jumping the gun.
It's okay, it's all good. So, as I said, we are a highly regulated industry and we want to provide accurate and timely content. It's critical to our success and to our reputation. We take that very seriously. And even though we are regulated and compliance does review our content on a regular basis for very specific criteria, we do want to keep our learners at the center of everything we do. So if you think back to the Venn diagram that we were talking about earlier, where we were advocating for our learners and we are demystifying and we are creating solutions that are holistic and measured in our approach. I think all of those things are what we're going to talk about today. So, Deepa and Phil have both really great examples of how we have evolved as a training team from just providing e-learning to really providing holistic and overarching solutions that then meet the need, our objectives for our courses. Because when you walk into a room of people who are needing to create training, and it could be training for any reason, a product upgrade, a technology enhancement, a strategic initiative that's being focused on throughout the entire company, it could be anything. Each person at that table has a different criteria for success. And as in training development, our criteria for success is very different than somebody in technology. So, as an example, somebody in technology might need to meet a very specific deadline that the software is working. Whether or not the software works is important, but it's not the only thing of do people then understand how to use it. So as we come to the table, we constantly are taking the approach to say, you know, are our users, our people getting what they need from what is being recommended as a solution? So we act as consultants and we provide recommendations. And sometimes, we really, the only word I can think of is advocate for the end learners, for people where it just may not be on their radar screen. I think if you've been in training and development for any period of time, you've probably sat in a room where somebody has said, "Oh, our change champions, they're going to be our subject matter experts, and they're not just going to be our subject matter experts. They're also going to be our testers and our trainers." Right? So, well, what that sounds really good in theory, but what happens when the schedule is condensed because something else ran behind and all of a sudden testing and training is going on at the same time? That's a way that you can advocate for your learners, and you raise that question and be like, okay, like this looks great today. What are we going to do farther down the road if this needs to change? Because they can't do two things at once. And in my experience, testing has always taken the priority. So then training falls to people who aren't prepared necessarily to do that. So it's the forward thinking and being able to predict some of the issues that may come up, as well as so in a lot of cases, training updates in standing meetings fall towards the end of the agenda, and people may not be that interested in pulling those items forward if they don't need to, if it's not put in front of them. So you're championing for your role in what you're doing and the deliverables that you're providing. And you may have heard something along the lines, I know I have, training's not important right now. We'll figure that out later. Well, okay, that might be true, but later's going to be here much sooner than what you think, and training doesn't happen by magic. People think if they're outside of training, it's kind of like these things develop overnight. Like there are, woodland elves out there working on it when nobody's there. Well, Phil Deepa and I are the woodland elves in this example, and we need time. And we also need the resources to get these things done. And my personal favorite, and I've heard this more than once on more than one project, is, "Oh, it's so easy. They'll figure it out." And again, that may make perfect sense to the person who is saying that. Usually it's somebody who's very technically savvy, someone who understands the existing framework front to back, and that it could be absolutely true for who they are and where they sit. They may be forgetting our, I'll use my financial advisors as an example. Those are people who they're not in their roles because they're technology experts. They're in their roles because they're rainmakers. And they're in their roles because they can sell a ketchup popsicle to somebody wearing white gloves. That's what they do. And we have the opportunity to advocate for them and help bring perspective to what it is that we need to provide. So our learners, our clients, are provided with a solution that meets their needs and meets the time frame. So whether or not it's something really quick or whether or not it's a holistic approach involving lots of different components, including communication plans and drip change management plans, all of those things, we have the opportunity to keep the focus on our learners at the end of the day through all of the projects that we touch. All right, now I have some really great opportunities here to introduce. I'm going to throw to Deepa here in just a minute to help show us what these projects look like in action. So we at RBC Wealth Management have had a couple of projects where we felt like we had really taken the turn and we had evolved from being the group that developed e-learning to a group that provided holistic training and development solutions, all while keeping the end learner, our client, the most important person to us, in mind, and with tremendous success. So Deepa, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Joleen. So this is the case study that I want to share, and this is something I worked on last year. And I want to set some context. First of all, I want to thank Frederickson for this opportunity, and Mark has been wonderful to work with. Thank you all for being here. We hope to, see this kind of community participation, and I do want to make sure we have plenty of discussion. So please put questions in the chat as we go along, and I would be happy to answer them. I think Mark is monitoring the chat as well. So we don't have to save your questions till the very end. So setting some context here for my case study, I call it the case of the diminishing attention span. So raise your hand if you feel that you are a little distracted and you can't focus on anything for more than 5 minutes. Right? I mean, they're still already looking away. I was just thinking, I mean, people used to read War and Peace. And now if you go to the, New York Times or Washington Post, it tells you 3-minute read and you're contemplating, do I have 3 minutes to read this? You're doom scrolling on your phone. Something is pinging and dinging, and you're just you can't watch a single screen at a time. Tell me you're not watching a show on Netflix while also scrolling on something on your phone. You have such a lot of fragmentation of your concentration. So this is the world we're living in. So I want to start with asking a question. What do you think is the average adult internet user's attention span? Do you think it's a couple minutes, 30 seconds? I want to hear, okay, we got a guess, 45 seconds for scrolling hours at a time, but for a single piece of content. Let's say I'm presenting a single piece of content. I mean, people used to take a minute, 2.5 minutes, okay. 15 cool. Seconds, 20 seconds, a minute and a half, okay? Yeah, so notice how it's like most of you are thinking in terms of seconds. But here's the shocker. See? You see? But here is the shocker. It's 8.25 seconds. It's even worse than we thought. We thought maybe at least you could hold people's attention for 20 seconds. So this is the kind of world. Yeah, you see, all of you are just like, yeah, you know what? I'm surprised, but not shocked. This is the kind of situation, and we're all sort of fleeing this barrage of things going on. So this is the context in which we are working and having to deal with. And Joleen mentioned we have our financial advisors. They're fantastic with people. They understand their subject. They know what's the newest financial instruments. Do they have the patience to sit and take training? No, they don't. They'd rather be doing anything else. So with this context, what is it that we were trying to do? We're trying to attract a new generation of clients. We have people who are our financial advisors have decades of experience. Their clients have decades of wealth. So we're talking about people, financial advisors in their 50s, 60s, some people in their 70s. Yes, you know, we have some politicians who are sort of like that too. So everybody's getting older, and the people who have the wealth are also older. But bad news, nobody lives forever, right? And so baby boomers are retiring, some of them are passing on. And what we are seeing happen is just, it's going to boggle your mind. I'm not going to ask you for a guess because there's no way you would have guessed this. Baby boomers will be passing on $84 trillion to their heirs. And this is called, we call this the great wealth transfer. I mean, like I said, boggles your mind. Through 2045, it's already begun and people are inheriting the wealth. And so I should remind you, a trillion is one followed by 12 zeros. This is a staggering amount of money. And so the context, as I said, our financial advisors are older, they're getting successors, our clients are passing on their wealth. How do we retain the interest of the people who are inheriting the wealth? People, they're probably like, I'll just do it on Robinhood. I'll just use a robo-advisor. I don't know what benefit you're bringing to me. You know, you're not able to relate to me. And we've got the situation. So one of the things we found out was that we could make inroads with this next generation through something. Are you familiar with the term ESG? Can you give me a thumbs up in the chat that you've heard the term? Do you know what it means? Does it ring a bell at all? Okay, got it. I got one thumbs up. Okay? Some yeses, some nos. And it's you don't feel bad if you haven't heard about it, because it is kind of a little bit of an esoteric term, and it's only probably well known in financial circles, but it is absolutely fascinating. And what ESG, oh, there we go. Amber says environmental social governance. Yay. And like I said, don't feel bad if you didn't know it. The ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. And very briefly, I think some of this is self-explanatory. The idea is that you evaluate your investments and the companies that you're considering investing in based on these criteria. So environment is pretty straightforward. I mean, are they limiting carbon emissions, trying to be carbon neutral, not polluting, not greenwashing? That's another term where people pretending to be doing something but aren't. Not deforestation, fossil fuels, all of that stuff. Social is, you know, what are your relationships with your, excuse me, relationships with your employees, your vendors, what are your labor practices? You're not employing people in sweatshops. You're caring about your community. And then governance, this one is really fascinating because, you know, you think governance, what does that mean? It's not a political governance, but, you know, companies have boards of directors. And I think all of you probably remember Sam Bankman-Fried and that whole FTX thing. Well, they didn't have any governance. They didn't have any oversight. And so if somebody is, you know, embezzling funds, or there aren't checks and balances in place, that can be pretty catastrophic for a company. So that's the governance aspect of it. So these three are the facets where you think, if you apply this lens, it gives you a pretty good window into what could be a good long-term investment if you think that they're doing a robust job with these. Okay, so again, like Joleen mentioned several times, you know, we really focus on our clients. Our financial advisors are really focused on our clients, and we focus on our financial advisors having the right tools that they can go engage with the clients. And remember, the big context was we're trying to attract the next generation. So, you know, we even have a term, it's kind of amusing. We call them Henrys. They're high earners, not rich yet. But, you know, people are starting out on their wealth accumulation journey, and it's possible that they will be the next generation, then passing on to their next generation. So RBC surveyed 1,000 high earning and high net worth millennials to understand their needs. And we said, you know, what do you think you are interested in? And when it comes to money management, what do you want to do with your money? What do you want your financial advisor to care about? Because that's what you care about. And it turns out, again, not a surprise if you are yourself a millennial, and I'm sure many of you are, or you know millennials. I'm not even a millennial, I'm a little older than that, but I do believe climate change will impact our financial future. It's going to impact our world. They do want to base their investment decisions on ESG principles and have altered their investment strategy within the past year to be more ESG focused. And this was the real shocker. They actually, a majority of them said they would leave a financial advisor if they were not knowledgeable about ESG and able to apply those principles to their investments. And so we will send out a handout. So if you want to look at the Wealth Insights report where we get all this data from, we would love for you to visit. This is on the public pages of RBC Wealth Management U.S. So this was the situation. And so what our responsible investing team developed was this sort of spectrum. And instead of using the term ESG, because that's just one component of it, some people call it SRI, socially responsible investing, but that's just one facet. There were just a number of terms. And so they decided to come up with this umbrella term and show this spectrum. And it's, I'm not going to go too much into this. Again, I'd be happy to point you to more resources because I think it's fascinating. But the idea is that you can figure out your investment universe based on the principles. ESG integration is it's not really narrowing the scope but you're just applying the lens, but it's similar to traditional asset management. But you could go deeper into it. You could start excluding entire categories. You say, I absolutely want to divest from companies that are, using fossil fuels, for example, or whatever. You can start screening. You can start investing in a thematic way. If you say, I'm really concerned about water conservation, so that's going to be a thematic investment I'm going to make. Impact investing is you're really focused on maybe a social cause. You want to have low-income housing, and with impact investing, you're not trying to make a profit really. Maybe you have a lot of wealth and you just want to do some good with it, but you just kind of want your money back. And philanthropy, I think all of you are familiar. That's where you just give the money and you don't expect anything back. So it's kind of a fascinating spectrum that we were on. And we were also trying to educate our advisors and clients about the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which they're really trying to make inroads into these. I mean, these are ambitious goals, 17 goals, but hopefully, I would like to believe in the next few decades we can do this, have affordable clean energy, good health and well-being, quality education, peace, justice, strong institutions. So quite a lot of good information. We developed some tools, materials, discussion guides. And so the responsible investing team came to us and said, what do you think we should do? We really need to educate our advisors. And I'm keeping an eye on the time, so I'm going to speed through this a little bit. And we said, not everything needs training. I asked them, do you want them to track? Do we need to track their completion? Is there anything we want them to take it as required learning because they hate that? And they said, no, we just want to make sure they're well informed. And I said, well, you know what? We can have short micro learning videos. And then they said, oh, okay, does that mean we have to, do a video studio? We have to, I'm nervous about being on camera. And I said, no, we don't have to do any of that. So what was the creative solution that we came up with is basically a set of these little videos that I built entirely in Storyline. So I know most of you probably have used Storyline or are using Storyline, but I don't know how often you publish to MP4. And it was as simple as that, was to be able to, just break it down, set it up, the confusing terminology, regulations, all of that, then, what you're going to be seeing, then know the terminology, know the solutions, all the way down to the extent that you want it to, as deep as you want it to go. Okay, enough talking. Let's see if we can actually, I think the box was checked for audio, so you should be able to start listening to the audio soon in a minute here.
RBC Wealth Management recently published our updated terminology and definitions for responsible investment, often abbreviated to RI. RI is what we consider an umbrella term with 4 applications that include ESG integration, ESG screening and exclusion, thematic ESG investing, and impact investing. To refresh your memory about the term ESG, it stands for environmental, social, and governance. Terminology within this space can vary at different financial services firms, since there is no governing body that has defined the terms that would allow everyone to have that the profusion of terms related to responsible investing can make it challenging to talk about it with clients. With clear definitions for our approach to responsible investing, we make it more accessible for the layperson to avoid key steps to integrate responsible investing into your business. Are you ready for our easy 6-step guide?
So this is a highly edited down, and I don't want to shortchange Phil here, so I'm skipping through that too. But it was, kind of fun to figure out how to take their content and make it into a video format that got all the message across. But each video was only about 2-3. Well, couldn't fit anything into 8.25 seconds, And so I wanted to show you a little bit about how the sausage was made. If you worked with Storyline, you can see there's all the layers are out there, but that's the behind the scenes of this video that you just saw. I built them all out slide by slide with the timing and fades and all of that. So, and then this was such a hit with our advisors, which I was really shocked by. But we found that people are having success having these conversations. People are really responding. And then they said, you know what? I think we do want to make it required training after all. So we're going to put it as part of our firm element. And that's some technical terminology that we use. That's our president. And then I ended up creating a required course and making everybody take it after all of the work of the voluntary videos. And that I built in Rise so that they could at least, again, minimize the time, and we included a quiz and everything. So I clearly messed up my sequencing of those slides, but never mind. So sum up, and I'm aiming for 9:45 to wrap this no later than that. The challenge was to inform our internal audience, which is famously short on attention, about a significant organizational priority. And the solution was a buffet of options. They even talked about, can we do a podcast? And I said, no, because you have so much visual content and that doesn't work for a podcast. But, little bites of videos. And in the end, senior leaders decided that the topic was important enough for required training. So I hope you enjoyed that. And I hope we'll have time at the end for any questions if you do. But I want to hand over the stage to Phil here.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark, and Joleen and Deepa as well. Well, the project I'm going to talk about is called the Branch Career Path, and has a very interesting story. First of all, the challenge. We are a company of over 100,000 global based Royal Bank of Canada and many employees across the globe and across many platforms. Our part of the company, U.S. Wealth Management, is about 6,000 people. And across all those platforms, we have all kinds of career resources, but they're hard to find. They're very siloed, and there's really nothing specific to within our company. Joleen had mentioned our financial advisors, who are kind of our leads, of course, in what we do as a company. But the support roles, support professionals that work with them are really the mind of our organization. There's really little to support them. So this is how we address that. First of all, the spark of this idea came from an internal organization we have called the Women's Association of Financial Advisors, or WAFA. And many of their members, interestingly enough, have climbed the ranks from possibly a client associate all the way to financial advisors, to some of our top financial advisors. And we were given a slip of paper after one of their conferences and asked if we could possibly do something with this, create something that could be a resource for people in those support roles to help navigate their career. And the original vision was this: something that would take a person from point A to point B. Simple enough. But when we really started looking at it, analyzing it, tearing it apart, it looked much more like this. Think of a complex subway map, all the twists and turns. I can tell you my career, this is a great illustration of that. And the choices we have along the way, our destinations, where we want to go, where that destination may change. So that led to that idea of developing a tool that started, first of all, on paper or as a PDF, a digital PDF. There's quite a bit going on here, but the meat of it, Roy, is this part here of the different types of opportunities we have in our organization and beyond for starting to climb the ladder, develop your own path. We really developed a choose your own adventure approach to that and laid those out. And again, it was more of a listing at the very beginning. That evolved then to another page in this where we'd help people even start to think about what is it they're looking for. For example, starting with what's important to them. And they could check one or many of these. What are you seeking in your career? And one we really want to highlight, and we have many people in our organization that really exemplify this, and that is growing and excelling in your current role. Not everyone wants to be CEO of our company someday, but really to be indispensable to your team, to your clients. And we have many good examples of people in support roles that really are the heart and soul of their branch and our company in their clients' eyes. So that's very much a key goal. And then different ways you can take action on that. So these two pages together really led to the next evolution of this, and that is a website, the Branch Career Path website. Now, this is interesting because this is hosted on one of our internal platforms. We have many, but this one is global across our organization. So over 100,000 people have access to this. And again, there are a lot of great resources out there. We'll look at that in a moment. But in developing this, we're able to start to share these resources. First of all, the tool you just saw, so people can view and download that two-page tool and use it to begin to think about their career and what they want to do with it. Resources, this is the heart of the site. And really not, I won't say not new thinking here, but essentially we curated the multitude of resources throughout our organization. So a lot of research went into that. The development of all this took about 6 months. No, I'd say almost, actually, as I really think about 10 months from the beginning spark of a little piece of paper handed to us to developing this website. We'll look at the resources in a little more detail in a moment. We also collected stories, and this is an area we want to do more of in the future, but from the Women's Association of Financial Advisors newsletter, for the last several years, they've captured people's stories of how they've navigated their career. And we've got some inspiration there for people. And finally, guides. There's a key guide here for both employees and people managers or mentors, but also specific guides for example, teams and financial advisors and other groups that we've spoken to over time. And then one of the tools, we'll talk a little bit about this ahead, but also there's a blog here. So keeping some of these topics front and center. For example, right now we're in the middle of our annual review process. Coming up toward the end of this year will be our goals for the next year. So we highlight things like that to help point people to resources that are available here to help them navigate through that. So let's go ahead and take a quick look. Here's the resources section, just a quick peek, and the types of categories we have here, including we're going to be adding very soon one of well-being. That was kind of popular demand on not necessarily benefits, but maybe benefits that relate to your overall well-being, whether it's mental fitness, health, physical fitness, things like that, and great resources we have available. But let's take a peek into one of these, into the self-assessment category, and I'll give you an idea of what is there. So, there we go. First of all, one of the things we had, and you'll see RBC Connect is that platform that is global, so available to 100,000 employees. We have an assessment catalog that has different self-assessments you can take that are available either through our organization or externally. Maybe we contract with to learn more about yourself and your goals. And also this category of top future skills. Keep that in mind. We'll come back to something about that as we close here in just a few moments or minutes. Say minutes, not moments. But we'll look at that. But these are our top future skills identified internally within our company, but they map very well with what I'll show you in a little bit here. But just by categorizing and curating over about 130 resources and helping people, making them easy to find, it's made a tremendous difference. Now, one final thing, I'll talk about this just briefly, is what kind of results have we seen? And then I'll share some tips on putting together this type of project. But in the first year of this project, we had over 4,000 visitors. Now, for a company of 6,000, I don't want to assume that they were all within our part of the company, and all the better. If we have people coming from other parts of our organization, all the better. But that is in the first year. And then and that was June of 2023. Since then, so in the 16 months that this site has been around, we now have over 5,700 visitors with 24,000 clicks, over 24,000 clicks. And the reason that's important, and actually an aside here, very briefly, I was able to participate this spring and summer in the Frederickson data and analytics cohort. And thank you very much, Frederickson. Really appreciate that. That helped us really take a big focus on metrics and how to use those in design. I'll mention that in a moment. But what we're finding is, or what we found is, people are spending more time on the site. And what's significant about that is, for a site that is designed to send people to other sites, that's kind of a big deal. People are exploring a little bit, spending time with it, clicking on different things. Even the number of clicks per visitor is impressive as well. So we're finding people are using this in the way we intended, which is really heartening. Oh, there we go. And then finally, I just want to share some kind of wrapping this part up, a few findings, a few things we found from this project. First of all, the importance of when you design an internal website or any kind of website, the importance of planning. We actually put together mock-ups in PowerPoint that we spent several months with, designing, getting feedback on, and solving a lot of problems, identifying problems that we would have with this, like this links to what, or where do we house these resources, or what does this look like? Doing that ahead of time allowed us to, within 2 days, build the actual site, because we had almost everything worked out. And the other thing is just pilot testing this as we went along, just kind of incrementally with the audiences that we were going to serve. And we got some really good feedback that helped us find that. A few other things, especially something like this, when we have an organization of over 100,000 people, making it easy to find. One of the biggest resources, or one of the biggest frustrations, is our resources can be very hard to find sometimes because they're so scattered. So on our company, the U.S. Wealth Management website, in our intranet there, we've made this part of the menu, the main menu, so people can find this and get to this very quickly, take them straight to the site. We do frequent updates and cross postings through blog posts. We'll link to other related career resources within or events happening. A lot of internal promotion. We've been very lucky to present this project, this resource, to a lot of groups as they visited our company or through webinars, et cetera. And a lot of cross-pollination with not just within our team of training development, our whole field advancement group, but also other groups that work with the field quite a bit. And that's been a big help, and hope to do more collaboration in the future.
Phil, I got a quick question from Erin. She asked, who's responsible for keeping that space up to date and timely? Does that fall on your team?
You are looking at them right here.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
I'm key. And actually, but that's a great strategy too. When I talk about collaboration, we want to have more partners that can, for example, blog posts, and we've had others do blog posts, but having other groups and other people help keep this fresh. So yes, while much of it lies on me.
Another question, why on the intranet and not on the LMS?
That's a good question. Really, for just overall ease of access, we do some measurement on here, but we just want to make things easy to get to. The building of website, for example, that resources page has over 130 links. That's something that works very well on a web page, but not necessarily in an e-learning type format.
Yeah, I think it's just the sheer amount of content and allowing ease of navigation. And people tend to take a training and then not go to it ever again. We wanted them to be able to bookmark this and visit it often. Whereas with e-learning on an LMS, it's kind of one and done, is what we find with our audience.
However, we do link to things on our LMS and onto other things like Udemy and what's the other?
Percipio.
Skillsoft. We do link to other resources that are on our LMS as well. So we help kind of make that a short trip for people. So to wrap up, I want to kind of bring our beginning in and those many hats we wear. And someone pointed out, and that is absolutely right. There's so many more labels you can put on these hats, or many more hats. But what about the skills that require us to be this broad or to manage people in these areas? And one answer I want to share with you comes from Davos, Switzerland, and that is the World Economic Forum. This is a group many of you are familiar with, probably, of over 1,000 organizations. Royal Bank of Canada is one of them, that meets every year in Switzerland and discusses issues like our economy, developing needs for organizations, things like that. And they've come out with this report down here, Future of Jobs Survey. And one section is skills on the rise. And these are the top skills they see emerging, that we'll really need in the future. Some organizations here in purple don't feel they're important, but most do. And look at the list of things these are the skills we need for today into the future, that we need to make sure we have and the people that work with us and for us do. And one final thing, Joleen mentioned AI. What about that question of AI taking our jobs? That's one thing where really by being to grow your skill set and be able to even manage AI and big data. I'm thinking the language prompts session that's coming up, I think in January, will help you do that as well. But keeping your skills up to date and future-proofed is really important.
But I just really want quickly, the
Yep.
empathy and active listening and the creative thinking, I
People
think
things.
and people related qualities. I think we're still a long way away from AI acquiring those capabilities. So, this is
Curiosity.
a great list of things that what
Absolutely.
will make you AI proof.
Curiosity and lifelong learning will help you do that. So the final thing, the phrase, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, how important it is to grow your entire toolkit and continue to develop that and test it and use it. So
oh my gosh, we went all the way to 10 o'clock.
Went to the time. Wow. So any final questions that we can maybe answer? Thank you, everyone, for being part of this. We'll share this presentation, which has some of the links we discussed as well.
And I'm sorry we couldn't get to questions, but I think, Mark, if you can compile those questions, we'll maybe address them in like a email follow-up or something like that. We don't want to leave you hanging, but we hope you
yeah, let me, you know what I can do? So I'm dropping my email in the chat there. If anybody does have any questions or, wants to connect about anything you've heard today, please shoot me a message and I'll get you all hooked up with the RBC team. I'm gonna put up a final thank you slide. Any, applause, ghosts for Joleen and Deepa and Phil. Awesome job, and thank you so much for sharing with us. We appreciate the willingness and the openness, and I hope you all have a great spooky Halloween day. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.